Tragedy. Another child is dead because of police aggression. Keith Vidal, who had just celebrated his 18th birthday last month, was killed by a police officer who responded to the family's Boiling Springs Lake home Sunday afternoon. Police responded to his house after Vidal, who according to his parents is schizophrenic, picked up a screwdriver and refused to put it down. Mark Wisely Sr., Keith's father, told reporters two responding officers were able to calm Vidal down before another officer walked into the family's home. It was when the third officer walked in that the 90-pound teen was stunned with a taser and fell to the floor. According to Anthony Owens, a family friend, Vidal collapsed backward onto the floor. The two officers jumped on top of the 5'3", 100-pound Vidal to restrain him. As Vidal's father tried to step in and grab the screwdriver, the Southport police officer that had instructed the other officers to use their tasers moved between the father and a pile of people on the floor and said, quote, "We don't have time for this," and shot Vidal once in the chest as the other two officers held him on the floor. Vidal's father then grabbed the officer as he was lining himself up for another shot. This morning, an event report of the incident was released that mirrors the family's recount. According to the report, the first unit on the scene was a Boiling Springs Lake officer who arrived at 12:34 p.m. He was joined shortly after by two additional Boiling Spring Lake officers and a Brunswick County Sheriff's deputy. The first unit on the scene reported a confrontation in the hallway, but told Brunswick County dispatchers several times that everything was okay. Unit 104 from Southport arrived on the scene at 12:48, 14 minutes after the first officer had already been on the scene. 70 seconds later, Unit 104 radioed out that he had to fire shots on the subject in order to defend himself. The officer's name had been held pending an internal investigation. Brunswick County District Attorney John David was on the scene just a few minutes after the news of the shooting had happened. He launched an investigation into today's tragic events. The family were not invited to a press conference yesterday, but attended it anyway, at which point it was moved to the back room to talk to the media before family. Still, no details were released. A detective from the Southport Police Department is on paid administrative leave after an officer-involved shooting that happened at the home on Boiling Spring Lake Sunday afternoon. Paid administrative leave means he's not showing up to work, but he's still collecting a paycheck at the expense of the taxpayers. I'll remind you, the two units on the scene had radioed into dispatch saying several times that everything was okay. The third officer arrives on the scene and 70 seconds later radios in that he had to fire shots at the subject in order to defend himself from this 90-pound teen holding a screwdriver who was already subdued with a taser, who is known to be schizophrenic. And the officer who shot the young man is quoted with witnesses, and it's not denied, saying, quote, "We don't have time for this." Who's we? The two officers on the scene already had everything under control. You're the monster who didn't have time for this. You shot a kid in cold blood, and your name is withheld by the very department who you serve. Don't the public have a right to know who you are, you murderer? No, apparently they don't. The family wasn't even invited to the press conference. Here's a clip from that press conference.
Should not be treated like this. Mentally ill people, we called the police department for help. We didn't call the police department to have our son murdered in front of our eyes.
How did it make you feel?
And to top it off, we weren't allowed to go in the ambulance with my son. I found out my son was dead over a telephone call. I still have not seen my son, and our district attorney will not give special permission so I could see my son. So to this day, right now, to this hour, I still have not seen my deceased son.
I'm so sorry.
So am I.
How does it make you feel that you weren't even invited to this press conference?
Well,
cover-up.
a cover-up, big
Cover-up's
old
already
cover-up.
started. You know, the
We
good
got
old
told
boys.
twice. First, he was going to Jacksonville, North Carolina for an autopsy. Then we were told he's going to Fayetteville. The cover-up's already begun. Why? Why did this child have to die?
There was 2 cops on top of him and me right there. I went to help the officers. He shot for no reason. There was 2 cops on top of him. He reached straight up, shot this kid point blank with all intent to kill.
So you heard it from the parents themselves speaking at the press conference that they weren't invited to but attended anyway. They were asked by media how they felt about it, and you heard them. They said it's a cover-up and that it's already begun and that they're trying to keep that from happening by putting the pressure on the media to keep reporting about this story. Don't let this disappear. Some 90-pound-year-old, 18-year-old kid dies at the hand of a police officer, and they're just going to not reveal the name, not do an investigation, sweep it all under the rug. So what? So that this guy can come back on the force and kill more teens? That tired excuse that they were in fear for their lives is getting old, especially with 3 men on top of a teenager who weighs 90 pounds. But maybe the schizophrenic was better off at home. Let's see what happens when videos go undercover into a classroom where special needs students are being beaten by the teacher's assistant.
Is releasing a report later today. To Georgia now, where 2 teaching assistants are caught on camera beating special needs students in Atlanta. The video shows them slapping and choking students, and at one point, one of the students falls off a chair. The woman who taped this says she thought something was wrong inside the classroom, so she set up a hidden camera. The Atlanta Public Schools District says it has removed both assistants from the classroom after seeing the video. One of the women was arrested and charged with battery and child cruelty. The other faces a disciplinary hearing. Now, this next story is getting...
Yeah, so what is going on here? You see, the reporting is that the video shows teachers' assistants allegedly beating a special needs student. Are they blind? Did they see the video? Here it is again in case you missed it. This teacher whacks the student.
To Georgia now, where
here he is.
Teaching
here she is putting her hands on him,
on camera,
then throws him, punches him in the face,
shows them slapping
and twisting him.
Students. And at one point, one of the
pushing him around the classroom. This is a special needs student. She's supposed to be trained in taking extra special care of these children. They need extra help. They don't need to be thrown around and violated. That's not what these people are paid to do. And aren't they paid an exorbitant amount so that they can give special attention to these kids? Does that special attention include beating them? Well, the woman who taped it said she thought something was wrong in the classroom, so she set up a hidden camera. Again, we see video is the vindication. Take video. You see something wrong, get a video camera. You see something wrong happening around you, you've got no excuse. Video cameras are everywhere. They're on your phone. They can be as small as a thumb drive, and they're cheap, like 15 bucks. So you have no excuse. You know if you're awake, if you know what's happening in the world around you, and you're not one of those sheeple who wants to stick their head in the sand and hide from reality, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to humanity. Buy a video camera, wear it. Make sure you use it. Because this is happening all around you, and you're no exception to the rule.